In 2011, one of the most celebrated comic book characters of all time finally made it onto the big screen with Green Lantern. A special effects heavy spectacle with so much green CGI, you're probably going to be left seeing the color green long after watching this movie. Anyway, Ryan Reynolds plays test pilot Hal Jordan, who takes over a magical powerful ring, where he is evaluated by an intergalactic police force known as the Green Lantern Corps. However, there is hesitation that Jordan may be unsuitable to be a Green Lantern, where Jordan goes on a journey and becomes less irresponsible and more hero, as he must save the world and become the Green Lantern the universe deserves. And this guy has a big head. Now, this Green Lantern movie didn't exactly take off and win any hearts, and could be described as lackluster at best and a noisy, loud, hollow movie at worst. A movie that looks good, but ultimately leaves you unsatisfied. So, what happened? Well, today we are going to find out by looking into 10 things that you didn't know about the 2011 Green Lantern movie, as I basically recite the Wikipedia page while adding my own minty isms. Hey, I'm good at those minty isms. So let the box office disappointment sink in as we check it out. Number 10. The origins of Green Lantern.
The Green Lantern!
Green Lantern is indeed based on the DC comic book character, who made his debut in All American Comics all the way back in 1940. The character was created by cartoonist and artist Martin Nodell. Now, he got the idea of the Green Lantern after he was at the 34th Street subway station in Manhattan and saw a train man on the tracks holding up a lantern in order to lighten up the tracks, and the brightly lit lantern was flashing from red to green. And this image just really stuck in Nodell's head and inspired him to create the Green Lantern. Co-scripting the first couple of stories in the comic books was Bill Finger, the co-creator of Batman. And so, the Green Lantern tells the story of Alan Scott, a young railroad engineer, in which the green glow of an alien lantern instructs him to make a power ring, which gives him super abilities, particularly from his imagination and willpower, where he uses his new abilities to fight evil. And back then, the character wore a cape, as well as having a different costume, one of green and red. The Green Lantern would become a popular character, but when World War II ended, there was a decline in popularity, where the Green Lantern was shelved. However, in 1959, there was a character revamp, complete with a costume redesign, the more iconic one. This time, the story focuses on Hal Jordan, a former fighter pilot who gained superhuman abilities by the Power Ring, and once again became an iconic character in the DC lineup of heroes, where the Green Lantern was also a co-founder of the original Justice League of America. Green Lantern also introduces the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic team of lantern heroes whom fight crime, an organization led by the Guardians. However, over the years, there would be several characters taking on the guise of the Green Lantern, including Guy Gardner, Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, and many more. The character would continue to be a DC Comics highlight, thanks to compelling stories, as well as relevant stories which would update with the times. Before the 2011 movie, there already were a few live-action Green Lanterns. The first was shown in a 1979 TV special called The Legends of the Superheroes, which also featured Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin, with the Green Lantern being played by an actor called Howard Murphy, as well as an unsuccessful 1997 Justice League TV pilot, with an actor called Matthew Settle as the Green Lantern, who honestly doesn't look so much green but more blue, but whatever, as well as the character turning up in Smallville, so really a movie was inevitable. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't come sooner, considering Green Lantern's popularity is right up there with the likes of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Number 9. The movie went into production 14 years before its eventual release. Yeah, unfortunately, bringing the Green Lantern onto the big screen definitely falls into the category of production hell. It was 1997. The release of Batman and Robin was eagerly anticipated, on the account of its predecessor being such a huge hit, as well as an upcoming Superman Lives movie being in the works. Yep, it seems that Warner Bros. Had big plans for DC comic book heroes, as that year not only was the production company behind those other superhero projects, but they also greenlit a Green Lantern movie. Kevin Smith, who had just worked on the script for Superman Lives, was offered to write, but he turned it down. And if Wikipedia is a source to be believed, at one stage Quentin Tarantino was being sought after to write and direct, but incidentally that didn't happen. I would imagine that would have been a Green Lantern movie with a lot of violence and a lot of feet. And as it turns out, 1997 wasn't such a great year for DC on the big screen after all, as Batman and Robin was a flop, Superman Lives was cancelled, and the Green Lantern movie didn't go anywhere, for now. Number 8. Then Green Lantern was being visualised as a comedy. Oh, Jesus. So it was now 2004, and Warner Bros. Wondered if maybe they were taking the wrong angle with a Green Lantern movie, and thought to themselves, hey, what if we make the Green Lantern a comedy? Yeah! And not only that, but feature Jack Black as the Green Lantern. Yeah, I'm sure loyal fans of the comic books would absolutely love that. Furthermore, a script was written by Saturday Night Live alumni Robert Smigel. However, when word got out online that an upcoming Green Lantern movie was going to be a dude bro comedy starring Jack Black, the internet did what the internet does and lost its shit and retaliated with a big, loud heck no. So this decision was wisely scrapped. It seems that the production just couldn't get off the ground. David S. Goyer, who had just worked on the script for Batman Begins, was then approached to helm a Green Lantern movie, but he said no and chose to work on a Flash movie instead. One that didn't end up happening. Well, not at that time at least. Finally, it seemed that salvation did arrive in the form of Reynolds. No, not that Reynolds, but actor Corey Reynolds. Number 7. Green Lantern was originally going to be a trilogy. Being a fan of the Green Lantern comics, particularly the Jon Stewart version, Corey Reynolds pitched a Green Lantern trilogy for him to write and star in the movies as Green Lantern. He wrote a script in 2007 called Green Lantern Birth of a Hero, which, by accounts, Warner Bros. Really liked, and were just about ready to give the project the go-ahead. However, for whatever reason, Warner Bros. Changed their minds and scrapped this direction. Then Greg Berlanti, who had gone to work on many of the CW Arrowverse shows, including Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Titans, and Superman and Lois, as well as others, then came on board as director, and also worked on a script. Incidentally, this version of the script also featured cameos from Guy Gardner and Superman, in a script that was going to be more in line with the Green Lantern comic books of the 70s and 80s. But things were not off to a good start when the script was leaked online. Man, the Green Lantern movie just couldn't catch a break! It's like the universe was throwing everything at this movie to try and stop it. If only there was a famed James Bond director to save the day. Number 6. Greenfinger. After Greg Berlanti's contributions, Warner Bros. Now had 3 different drafts of the script to work with. However, Berlanti was then fired, with him claiming the final film doesn't feature any of his work. The production then turned to New Zealand director Martin Campbell, and he would have seemed like a true winner for bringing this comic book to life on the big screen, as he directed possibly 2 of the biggest modern James Bond movies of that time, with the likes of GoldenEye and Casino Royale, so clearly he had an eye for action and spectacle. In addition to that, he already dabbled with bringing superheroes onto the big screen too, as he also previously directed The Mask of Zorro and The Legend of Zorro. Incidentally, the Green Lantern movie would have 4 writers credited, including the as mentioned Greg Berlanti, Logan and Blade Runner 2049 co-writer Michael Green, Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow writer Mark Guggenheim, and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix co-writer Michael Goldenberg. Yep, usually when there's so many writers, it tends to indicate that the production was a mess, and there were lots of cooks in the kitchen. Number 5. The casting of Green Lantern. So when it came to who could play this cinematic version of Hal Jordan, aka the Green Lantern, many big names were considered. I can remember at the time hearing lots of reports that Tom Cruise may be playing the part. Like, this story was everywhere, but it didn't end up happening. Other casting possibilities include Bradley Cooper, Chris Pine, Jared Leto, Justin Timberlake for some reason, Sebastian Stan, Sam Worthington, and future Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion. Ryan Reynolds was ultimately cast in the part, and when I heard about this, my first thought was, wait, the two guys, a girl and a pizza place guy? Him? Yes, I know he was starring at movies at that time, but at that stage, that's the main thing I knew him from. That and Van Wilder. Look, this was before he became a big Hollywood heavyweight, okay? The Deadpool movies hadn't happened yet. When it came to Carol Ferris, several actresses were being sought after, including Eva Green, Diane Kruger, and Kerry Russell, but Blake Lively would be cast in the part, who, as we all know, would go on to marry Ryan Reynolds, where they would become a Hollywood power couple, without a worry in the world. Well, until Justin Baldoni would show up, but hey, let's not get into that, if you know what I mean. Other castings include Mark Strong as Sinestro, Angela Bassett as Amanda Waller, Tim Robbins as Robert Hammond, Peter Skarsgård as Hector Hammond, as well as the voice work of the Lanterns, including Jeffrey Rush, Michael Duncan Clark, and an almost unrecognisable Temuera Morrison. Number 4. A switch of location. The Green Lantern movie was going to be filmed at Fox Studios in Sydney, Australia, just like Superman Returns 5 years earlier. But because of delays in filming, the shoot was then shifted to New Orleans in Louisiana. During the shoot, Ryan Reynolds seriously hurt his shoulder, which actually left him in agony. Ouch. Now, one thing that I think was a big mistake during the movie's production was making the Green Lantern's costume entirely CGI. It just felt so unnecessary, and honestly, it makes his costume look really fake. On the account that the costume just looks really animated. Going back to that good old saying that it looks more like a video game of Green Lantern than live action Green Lantern. In all the behind the scenes footage of the filming, you can see Reynolds is wearing one of those silver suits, which usually stands in for CGI add-ons later in the post-production. Maybe it was felt that if the suit was CGI, it'll make it look more alien, I guess? But to me, it just ruins the presentation of the Green Lantern. It's like you have one of the most iconic costumes in comic book history. If a suit was actually physically created and worn, there is so much you could have done with it, and it could have looked really spectacular. In fact, I've seen pictures of people cosplaying as Green Lantern and make fan-made films, and to be honest, they look a lot better than this. To me, covering Ryan Reynolds in a heap of green CGI just ruined the character's presentation in the movie. It didn't look good. And I think others felt the same. And you know, giving the Green Lantern an entirely CGI suit may have doomed the movie before it was even released. There were probably fans who saw how the Green Lantern looked in the trailers and other promotional materials and were immediately put off by it. We also hardly ever see him wearing his eye mask, but then again, when we see Green Lantern in his mask, it just looks really off. So, maybe that's why. So in other words, going for a complete CGI suit was a huge misstep in my opinion. Take the Dark Knight trilogy, which was the current Batman at that time. That suit was an actual suit that was really constructed, which Christian Bale had to wear. Now, if they could make a bat suit, surely they could make a Green Lantern suit, no? Number 3. The shoot was described as frustrating. During the movie's production, Ryan Reynolds was actually very optimistic about the Green Lantern. He would say that although he has been aware of the Green Lantern his whole life, he's never really followed the character. But after meeting director Martin Campbell, he fell in love with the character. However, long after the movie's release, Reynolds didn't have such kind words for the movie anymore, where while promoting Deadpool, which, let's be honest, the real comic book character Reynolds was born to play, he said that he found the shoot to be frustrating, feeling that there was no big vision or solid script for the movie. It's like they had a movie poster, but didn't really know where to go from there. I'm guessing he felt that filming started with no solid script and no clear idea of what the movie is. Director Martin Campbell would also speak of the hardships of the Green Lantern movie to Screen Rant in 2021, where he felt that he could direct a James Bond movie, as he had previously seen all the Bond films, but he felt that he was the wrong man for the job when it came to directing Green Lantern, as by his own words, superhero movies weren't his cup of tea. So it sounds like Campbell can direct a pretty rocking James Bond picture because he totally gets those movies and understands the Bond formula, but when it came to Green Lantern, he didn't really know what he was working with here. Number 2, Green Lantern was converted into a 3D movie. So once the filming was done, Green Lantern entered its post-production phase, where reshoots took place at Warner Bros. Studios in LA, with extra special effects being added and a score by Dark Knight Trilogy composer James Newton Howard. It was during its post-production phase that the movie was converted into a 3D picture, in order to capitalize on the 3D craze at that time, which started a few years earlier with Avatar. I was never a fan of the 3D conversions, simply because the movie was intended to be shown in 2D. I always felt the 3D just didn't look right, and like when we see superheroes flying, they come out looking really little, but hey, that's just me. So I guess this leaves one big question: what universe is this Green Lantern movie a part of? Well, at the time, I heard several people claiming that it has a shared universe with Superman Lives and the Dark Knight trilogy, but there's nothing in the actual movie which leans to that. So, I guess in hindsight, this Green Lantern movie is its own movie with its own universe. When Man of Steel came out 2 years later, I also heard theories that this Green Lantern movie exists in that universe. But no, that was the start of a brand new cinematic universe. That, and when Suicide Squad came out, which was the third entry in that cinematic universe, the character of Amanda Waller was recast, with Viola Davis. So really, this is a one-off universe which would be abandoned. Number 1, plans for a sequel were dropped for Man of Steel instead. The release of Green Lantern was not off to a good start when trailers were shown at the start of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, which was an eagerly anticipated movie, meaning lots of people would be watching the Green Lantern trailer. Sadly though, the trailer was not met well with audiences, which pushed back the movie's marketing. The poor reception was put down to big, spectacular sequences to draw people in and get them excited for the movie were not ready to be used in that early trailer. So the trailer didn't contain that punch to get people interested. Eventually though, to help promote the movie, 9 minutes of Green Lantern would be shown at the 2011 WonderCon, as well as a series of prequel comic books, a simultaneous straight-to-video animated movie, a series of action figures, Hot Wheels toys, a video game, and even a Green Lantern roller coaster ride at Six Flags. Although here in Australia, we got the ride at Warner Bros. Movie World. Green Lantern was finally released on June 15, 2011, and it had its premiere at the Chinese Theatre in Hollywood Boulevard. Despite opening in the number 1 spot in the box office, in its second week, it dropped behind Cars 2 and Bad Teacher. Oh no. Yep, Cars 2 was more popular than Green Lantern. Embarrassing. Being made on a budget of $200 million, Green Lantern only made just over $237 million at the box office, only bringing in a profit of $37 million. Now compare that to Marvel's Thor, which also came out that year, which would go on to make $449 million. Needless to say, Green Lantern performed much lower than anticipated, and it's been speculated that all up, it may have cost Warner Bros. A $75 million loss. Ugh, yeesh. A Green Lantern sequel was already in the works, with the second installment to focus on the yellow power rings, but after the abysmal performance of Green Lantern, all plans for a sequel were dropped and scrapped, where instead Warner Bros. Would focus on Man of Steel, the start of a new DC shared cinematic universe, one to rival the Marvel Cinematic Universe, leaving Green Lantern as a one-and-done movie, and a now often forgotten about anomaly in the filmography of movies based on DC properties. Green Lantern got pretty bad reviews too. It was felt that it had big, glossy, and often noisy special effects, but underneath that, it was a pretty hollow movie. You know, nothing there to really chew on, and it currently has a not so flattering 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. I can remember watching Green Lantern for the first time, and I found it unengaging. It's like stuff was happening on the screen in front of me, but I just wasn't getting into it. It just felt really vanilla. And despite all the sparkling, key-dangling special effects, it didn't wow me, or particularly hold my attention. I've tried watching it a few times since, and it's always the same result. Yep, I'm sorry guys, this one just ain't growing on me. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate the movie, or have a bitter chip on my shoulder over it. In fact, the movie is very inoffensive. But to me, that's part of the problem. It's an inoffensive movie that doesn't grab or shake you, but rather leaving you feel uninterested in all its mundane glory. Once again, this is just my take on the movie. Some people may love it and see it as underrated, and that's fine. I also wouldn't be surprised if when it came out, small children who saw it now have a nostalgic love for it. And that's understandable. Despite the fact that the Green Lantern isn't really my movie, I think it's still interesting to talk about, as it is part of the history of DC superhero movies. And I think that failed movies or movies that didn't do too well are still interesting to talk about and fare up good discussion. And, well, maybe had it not been so misguided and went in a different direction, maybe we could have gotten a great Green Lantern movie. So it's healthy to learn from the mistakes of the past in order to move forward. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I still believe that a great Green Lantern movie is out there, just waiting to be made. See ya!